Hello and welcome to patch 14.12 of League of Legends. My name is Chris, and joined with me is my patch review duo partner, Jason.
Hey, Chrissy, it's been rough, but pulled my body together, put some push pins in it, and I made it here. So good to be with you.
Awesome. Okie dokie, we don't have a ridiculously long one today, but I would like to kind of speed through this one a bit. Kind of tired, stuff like that.
You're on the wrong
Alright,
channel for that, Chrissy, and it's your own channel.
skip through this goofy nonsense. And then, whoa, a lot more goofy nonsense.
I
Okay,
love
let's
the
get down
enthusiasm.
to the champions, unless there was something interesting you saw.
Um,
Most
I mean, we
interesting
have
thing to me is just what the new bots can do.
yeah, we have slightly better bots. Like the fact that they can consider wards is kind of cool. I don't know whether they actually. I think they do actually use like the actual team's vision. Because I know that when you duck into a bush, you're like, where did he go?
I never
So,
understood how the bots in this game are so incredibly bad. When in like
yeah. I
Warcraft
mean,
3 from 20 years ago had Dota bots that could play Dota and they were insanely good.
we're in the age where, like, with the technical resources they have, they could very easily, create bots that play better than pretty much, any, human. At least certainly not the ones that aren't like semi-pro or pro. And could play like real humans, right? You could do some type of survivorship. Where you just train the bots over a lot of generations, and the ones that do well, essentially reproduce. The ones that do really poorly die. And over a couple hundred generations, you have bots that would actually play League of Legends really well. Then you could add a little bit of randomness to that to make them feel human. Have them salt a little bit in chat. And yeah, it would be really, I think, a pretty cool experience. You wouldn't need to give them all kinds of cheats and Doombot to Doom. The bots
Yeah,
would just be Doom bots if you wanted them to be, if you could set them to like very hard or whatever.
the bots now can't even like last hit for shit.
They don't need to. I think they currently buy items on a fixed schedule instead of caring about their gold.
Well, that's really slow too then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, enough of that crapola.
All right, let's move on.
People are just gonna go straight into ranked. They don't care about bots. First up, we've got Aatrox, and we got some interesting stuff going on here. We've got more health regen, which is funny because Aatrox and Soraka have the distinguish of having like basically no health regen. They have like half a regen and they gain like one over the course of the whole game just because
Yeah,
of
yeah.
the
They
internal sustain they
they,
have.
they took this down even further. It looks like.
Then we got some more armor, and then the most interesting thing is his E is receiving a health ratio along the same lines that Briar, Kane, and Pantheon got, which I really like these new health ratios on some of these abilities. I think they really make the potential builds a lot more interesting. So we got much less front-loaded healing from his E, and then you can quickly catch up with some health. And then we got way more healing during his ultimate.
Yeah, I mean, given that this is not the first thing you're going to max, right? Like you can make
No.
up what you can make up what you lost with like 220 bonus health, which you might even be able to get from runes and shit like that. Um, certainly with a ruby crystal. And at the end of the game, you can make up what you're losing with about 850, 900 bonus health, which, again, is less than you should have in a good Aatrox build. So, yeah, just a nice little buff. And like you, I think that this is a good place to go for that rewarding building bonus health type of mechanic. Because I think Aatrox is the most interesting kind of champ when he's semi-tanky, rather than when he's just like a glass cannon that happens to be able to heal a lot.
I agree. That's how
Yeah,
I always played him back when he was more fun to play than he is now.
I think this is gonna get the double stamp from both of us as not tomfoolery. And then, yeah, much better healing amp during World Ender as well.
Alright, next up we've got a change with Akali. And this was probably long overdue. Because if you actually play any Akali, you'd know what a preposterous base numbers that exist on her E. Like, it adds up to like over 400. That's like more than her ultimate does at like rank 1. And
I mean, go on.
yeah, so they finally toned down some of the base numbers on this as well as the ratio. For a purely mobility spell that's supposed to just let her trigger her passive many times, this is a ridiculously overtuned ability.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I've probably seen one Akali in the last 6 months. I mean, she's just not played that much. Often when she is played, she's played well. So this must be like high elo or pro focused, because she's definitely not somebody that people are spamming to climb the mid tiers of ranked.
Well, if somehow
This
you're
is
one of those
yeah.
people who aren't obsessed with maxing Q to push the wave faster, maxing her E can be extremely cheesy, extremely fast, because the base damage is just so preposterous.
The cooldown comes down as well. Yeah, it does if you max it. And so yeah, I mean obviously you'd have pretty poor wave push if you're maxing E, but it's not impossible. And yeah, I mean there's a lot of threat that you can put out to the enemy when they try and push walk up to push the wave. This is a pretty big nerf. I mean, the dash base damage in addition to the shuriken. The shuriken didn't take too much off the top. But the dash base damage, 20 at rank 1, 70 at rank 5 being lost.
It's a
And
pretty
even
big
though
nerf, but it was
yeah,
entirely justified.
I hear you. I don't know that I agree, but I think that you make a fine argument for it. Yeah, the little bit of extra AD ratio is not going to compensate for the AP ratio that she's losing. This is a pretty big nerf. I don't like to see it only because I see so little Akali anyway, and this is just kind of the nail in the coffin. Probably before you get to Emerald or Master tier, that you're not going to see a lot of her.
If they want to help her, all they gotta do is give her a small buff on her passive or Q, since she uses either one of those like 12 times in every fight.
Well, yeah. I mean, if they buffed her Q, she that would make up for anything that they did to her E. Anyway.
Okay, next up, we've got Action, who I feel like I've seen a lot less of than Akali. We've got less damage on his passive, and they changed the scaling on this a little bit. This thing was always pretty good, though. And then his Q, which is his little boomerang. Oh, not his Q, my bad. The thing where he swings around his E, my bad. That lost some base damage and some scaling, but it switched from bonus to total, so maybe in the long run it'll be slightly better. I don't know.
Yeah, the 15% total AD in any practical circumstance is going to be better than 17.5% bonus AD. But I think that losing the base damage is probably enough to hurt him. Certainly at the lower levels. Overall, like these are just kind of like touches to him. Even the dirty fighting, depending on the level you're at, it can be slightly more or significantly less. These are some, I don't know, I would say just overall tiny nerfs to Akshan.
You'd think so.
Not really worth discussing that much. Go on.
The fact that, well, if you've laned against Action and you only do basically top, his E is kind of, he doesn't max his E, he's got to max his Q, and then his E, if he positions it correctly, it'll shoot you like, 7 or 8 times.
A lot of times,
so
yeah.
on level 1, which is what his E is going to be on for a while, losing 10 damage off of something that hits you many times really works into his quick cheese.
Not necessarily, because at level 1 you basically have 0 bonus AD. So now you're getting 15% total AD, which you're getting like 7 or 8 of the attack damage back.
Maybe.
Or 7 or 8 damage back on every shot.
But I don't think it'll be as strong as it was before.
I agree, but it's a very, very slight touch.
Okay, next up we've got Ash, who is losing some of her Infinity Edge built into her passive, where now the standard with no bonus critical strike chance critical damage multiplier on her passive default is starting at 115 instead of 120. I know that sounded like a lot of nonsense, but essentially, after Ash hits you one time, every other time she hits you, if you're already applied with Frost, so her W, one auto attack, or her ultimate, every auto attack after that always critically strikes for a much, much less critical strike multiplier, but the multiplier goes up with her critical strike chance. And if she maxes out with crit, she ends up critting harder than all of the other traditional AD carries.
Yeah, Ash is one of those champions that I think really represents good design in the sense that she does a few things that are very different from most of the other ADCs, but it's in like a balanced and stable way, and it's not like there's anything that's so extreme that as the meta shifts, she's just she's just like impossible to to keep balanced and keep fair. A lot of people, I think, just play Ashe as a crutch when they don't usually play ADCs, and that's probably why most of the time when I see Ashe, she stinks.
Those are Ezreal and Misfortune players.
A lot of people play those champs too.
Those are the crutch AD carries.
I don't know. I've seen a lot of people. I mean, people that I know that don't play ADC. That when they get ADC, they pick Ashe. And I've certainly seen some crappy Ashes in my game, and I'm left to assume that they're playing Ashe because they they just don't really know ADCs well.
Well,
she is somebody who can be played very skillfully, right? Once you if you know how to kite and you know how to move attack very well, you can basically run someone down forever. Right? And again, that's one of the really cool things about Ashe. I think that she occupies a unique place in the game that really not many of the other ADCs step on her toes. While she also does a lot of the things, like auto-attacking that a normal ADC would do. It brings a cool kit to the game. And isn't so extreme in her design that she's problematic. I think she's a really cool champion. The fact that she's doing 5% less bonus damage on each hit beyond the first does hurt, but I don't think it hurts too much. I mean, she can still run you down forever, right? If you're slow, even if she has to take one more hit to finish you off, she can usually do it.
I definitely don't think it's in a spot where she really could afford to lose the power. If there's anything that she could have lost, it's probably more base damage or cooldown on her volley, or
something with
something
her,
goofy with her, hawk shot especially, something like that. Because Ashe is probably one of the worst AD carries in the game from behind. Like I don't think that's undisputable.
At least no, it's not, because at least she can bring the stun and the utility. I mean, there's a lot of
she has
Raven's
utility.
One of the worst champions in the game from behind. Kai'Sa is one of the worst champions in the game from behind. Vayne is the worst champion in the game from behind.
Well, that's just absolutely not true.
Yes,
no one that does max health true damage is the worst champion in the game from behind.
If they don't have the stats to fire a lot of the times, and they just burst before they can get a couple hits off.
Now you might be right. With no lethal tempo, the world's just upside down.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of lethal tempo, that doesn't do favors for Ashe, because that was really good with her Q.
It was. Yeah, like, we don't talk about Ashe much. She doesn't appear in the patch notes that much, because, she's kind of in a stable place. She does the things she does well.
Yep, she's fun. I used to play her a lot when I was in high school, millennia ago. Back when you used to have to toggle Frost Shot on and off. Because it used to cost like 24 mana per shot, so you couldn't afford to just pepper someone infinitely like today, because it doesn't have a mana cost, because it's just a passive. You used to have to constantly
critical strikes, right? It just like gave you like an automatic critical strike every some number of hits, or what was it? The original like bullseye passive.
I think if she didn't like attack anyone for like 10 or 30 seconds, her next auto attack was a guaranteed crit, And
Oh
she used
yeah,
to make
yeah.
money on her E on her passive, just like Gangplank did.
It was the rework was really good. Like in
Oh
particular,
yeah,
the
it was good.
passive. While maybe it was a cool idea in season one, right? As they realized that,
It
like,
was
you know, an
garbage.
ADC needs to be able to build some crit to be effective. You know, this passive is anti-synergistic with anything she wants to build. Um, yeah, I like the spot she's in now. I just wish she were a little bit stronger. Like, give her one more AD every level.
Alright, next up we've got Blitzcrank. We've got 50 less health,
Uh huh.
which is definitely a point in the game where he can't afford to lose a 12th of his health. And they reverted the nerf on his passive, so now he gets a redonkulously long shield again, which is probably the smartest change I've seen Riot make in months.
Yeah, so like I don't know, I like the Aatrox changes above, but
Yeah, but on a
but
sentimental level, this is the
yeah.
best change.
As far as the mana barrier goes, right? This is something that actually often gets procced accidentally. You know, maybe you get like just peck. Uh, your shield goes off, you don't get to use it at all. So it is nice to be able to, you know, have the 10 seconds to, if you haven't like run in and used your hook shot yet, that you can you use the shield to give yourself a safer way to do that, and you know it's gonna last you the 10 seconds the fight goes. As far as the 50 base health, yeah, I mean, you know, Blitzcrank's only power point really is like the first like third of the game. He can make clutch grabs later on, but you know, I wouldn't call him a great late game support.
Oh, he's terrible.
So yeah, so yeah, 50 less health does hurt. I will say that he gets all of his stuff out in one combo and doesn't really do much after that. So even if you're not surviving as long during the fight, it's not like you made less of a contribution, but just giving extra kills away kind of sucks. So overall, I would say between these two things, it's a slight nerf. What do you think?
I mean, it's definitely a nerf.
Mm-hmm.
The shield thing is just like a goofy quality of life, but yeah, losing 50 health from when he needs to be playing like a goofish, overly aggressive buffoon in the first like 10 minutes of the game is definitely a big deal.
It's definitely top 10 on the champs I'd like to see reworked.
We did one. Wasn't he one of the
He
ones
was
we?
the first one I did for the
Yeah,
champion judge. Yeah.
both of those were so good. I didn't
But
put enough thought into mine.
but yeah, like look, early installment weirdness, it's okay. But yeah, I would say keep the hook shot, change almost everything else.
For God's sakes, it's rocket grab, isn't it?
All right, what do you have to say about Corki?
It is rocket grab. Shit. Alright, next up we've got Corky, and we've got some goofish change here. We've got some awesome or potentially cancerous AP ratios on his Q. For 10 million years, it never had a good AD ratio, and now it has an amazing AP ratio.
Yeah, 100% is nothing to sneeze at. You know, more damage on it, less cooldown. They made the Q a
Yeah.
lot better.
This is absolutely redonkulous. I mean, with a cooldown like that, I feel like AP might almost be better now. Because I feel like before they changed all of his stuff, he was super good just actually building like hypercarry.
Uh-huh.
Now I feel like it'd probably suit him to do something more cheesy.
You definitely don't want to be building that crit on this guy. But, yeah, AD versus AP. I mean, I actually kind of forget the ratios that they changed it to. I think he has a really high AD ratio on his big one now, right?
I don't remember because I was so disappointed with those changes because Corky was one of my favorite AD carries for
Okay, yeah, I'm looking at it
super
now.
long
It's
time.
80% of your bonus AD on the regular missile barrage and 160% on the big one. So I think despite the rewards for building AP on your Q, I think you still build AD. I don't know, maybe some of the combined items wouldn't be bad on him. I haven't really thought about that too much, but either way, like even if you're building 0 AP, right? 20 extra base damage and 1 second less cooldown is nice to see. Gatling gun a little bit worse now, but I don't think it even matters. Like this is nice for Corky.
This is such a big buff on his Q. You could probably just start the laning phase with like Doran's Ring, and it would be legit.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. You could start out with building a little bit of AP at the beginning of the game. You know, you could even like build an amp tome and sit on it if you want.
You don't want to do that because he still needs mana and all the other goodies.
Sure. Yeah. Sorry,
Alright.
I didn't mean that's your first item. I meant just in general for the early game.
Alright, next up, we've got another brilliant change to Ezreal. Didn't they just buff this to 130 in the last patch? Or 2 patches ago?
I think it was recent. Yeah.
It was, I swear it was, because I remember we were talking for like half an hour about how it used to be 65, then 75, then 90, then 105, then 110.
Uh-huh.
Now it's like 130. Now it's 140, so a few more patches. This is just going to be like Lee Sin's ultimate every Q. We're very close.
Oh, okay. I'm looking at it now. We're wrong. It's back in 14.3 they reduced it from 135 to 130, and that was after in 14.2 they increased it from 130 to 135. I'm looking.
Dude, just scroll all the way to the bottom when it was 75% total AD.
It was actually 2011. Sorry, 2021. 2011 is way back. 2021 is when they increased it from 120 to 130.
Go all the way to the bottom to 2009 when it was like 65 or 75% of his AD.
Okay, you keep buying your time. I'll look for it. No, in the beta, it was actually 100% increased to 120.
I feel like it was lower at one point.
I think it was, yeah.
There was definitely like an 8 or 9
back to 100 and 10099.
There was definitely like a 5 or 6 year period where it didn't change and it was a little lower.
Yeah. You know, he's definitely been either really strong or really weak at different.
Anyway, let's get back to the meat and potatoes. Along with this, we got a buff to his attack damage growth, so that'll be another few AD. And then we did get a nerf to his True Shot Barrage. It does say that it was reduced to a larger number, but I'm going to assume that's a typo. Instead, this lost 25 damage at all levels, and then 75 at rank. Yeah, 25, right, 50, and 75.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Let me quickly look at the True Shot Barrage itself. But I did look through the entire history. It's always floated between 100 and 130, according to the League Wiki patch history, at least. So it's never been below 100, but this is the highest it has ever been in 14 and a half years of Ezreal. So that's pretty cool. True Shot now deals the 350 to 750. And so, yeah, I believe that it was a typo to say that it was, yes.
Well, those are the numbers it's always been, so I think what it meant to say is it's being reduced to 325 to 675. It's always done those numbers on the left.
The new numbers I just looked are the numbers on the left, 350 to 750.
Oh, so was his ultimate's base damage lowered recently?
I think it. Yeah, I feel
like I would have remembered something like that since it's been untouched.
I think it actually was recently when they gave it another. When they gave Ezreal a different buff. I think I actually remember thinking, oh, 25 off True Shot Barrage isn't going to hurt that much.
Okay, well, in that case, then
yeah, that was 14.3. Yeah.
In that case, they're just reverting it to the figures he had for like 12 years.
That's correct, and that was when they, that was when they also like touched his Q down a little bit.
Well, then this is a monstrous buff for Ezreal. I mean, with now that Letho Tempo is not in the game, champions like Ezreal, Lucian should be like, and Miss Fortune should be like shining. Honestly, I would think. This is such a crazy buff, man.
We still have a meta where carries like Ezreal or Miss Fortune can have a hard time getting through tanks, but yeah, I agree. This should probably make him very strong. Not only do you have the higher AD ratios, and don't forget back in 14.3, The True Shot Barrage AP ratio, AD ratio, was increased from 100 to 120, but
Oh,
now he's getting
jeez.
more AD every single level.
Yeah. They're always gonna mess with Ezreal because he's so popular.
Yeah, man, put this state in a museum because it's not gonna last forever.
Probably every time he gets a buff, it increases like the active user base by like 1% for like a month or two.
Yeah.
Alright, next we've got some juicy changes for a champion near and dear to my heart, and that is Karma. We've got an extra whole half a second extra movement speed on her E, which is kind of cool because a long time ago it actually used to last for a few seconds. And then we got a very generous buff on the shield value on her E, and man, it's really hard to even get this much out of Karma buffs. And then on her ultimate E,
Mm-hmm.
we've got even more base shield. So in a way, you add both of these together and you get the ultimate E effect, which is
Yeah.
now
So
going up by a juicy amount.
for a very long time, particularly after her, her most recent rework, which was, has to be about 7 or 8 years ago by this point. They were really trying to make her more than just like a team speed and shield bot. Just where you're always using the mantra on her E. And so they kept putting more power into her Q and her W, and taking power, particularly shielding, away from her E. And yeah, in the last like year or two, she hasn't been in such a good place, despite all the spicy changes they gave her. And they're moving her back towards where she's gonna be able to fulfill that role more as a speed and shield bot for her team, and be able to do all those cool other things on her Q and W for a good player who gets creative. Nice to see. I would still rather have Lulu and her polymorph, but this is nice to see for Karma.
Okay, next up we've got Master Yi, who I have the opposite feelings for. We've got more monster damage from the Q, a higher cooldown on Meditate. Oh, it's just a bunch of nerfs. Okay.
Great nerfs.
Yeah, so jungle nerf, and then less damage reduction. Actually, this is just the damage reduction for like the first half second of Meditate, which is the one you use to like block towers and stuff.
It is, but like also the fact that the cooldown was increased on Meditate really does matter because it's being decreased by several seconds each time you get a KO, and I think that I'm trying to think, does the it doesn't have any type of cooldown on the ability every time you attack like his Q does it?
No, if he gets a takedown when he's in Highlander, it reduces the
Right.
cooldown on his other abilities by 70%.
Right. I still think that the second of extra cooldown on Meditate does really matter. A really good Yi, between being able to use the Qs often to dodge projectiles, skill shots, whatever, and being able to use the W to just for a couple seconds, like get that 90 now 70% damage reduction. He can be really hard to kill, even if you have an entire team wailing on him. You'll eventually kill him, but he can do so much damage and get his teammates there to finish you off that it just wins fights by itself. So these are some significant nerfs, and I don't know. I think Master Yi's been in a really strong spot. They've buffed the Wudru style several times in the last year or two. And I'm fine seeing these nerfs. I still think, like, in the hands of a good player, Yi is absolutely freaking dangerous.
Alright, next up, let's move on to Nefiri, one of the rarest creatures on the Rift. Gotta actually look up which slot these are. I think, okay, her passive. We got more damage on her little helpers that she runs around with.
Uh-huh.
And a fraction extra bonus that they do on hit. I think Heimerdinger's turrets have better scaling.
Right, but there are a lot of pack mates, in fairness, right? You can get more little doggos than Heimer can usually put down turrets in an area.
Mm.
Yeah, and that's slightly better. And then the Darkened Daggers also, much better early game, both for jungling and for lane pressure.
Yep.
Nefiri, I almost never see, but that's because I ban her almost every game. I hate having a Nefiri roam from mid lane, and it's so easy for her to do it, and to just like completely ruin, a dominant 2v2 bot lane.
I hear what you're saying, but I feel like her kit, in a way, is like even more like binary and predictable than like Briar's. You know, it's like
Um, I, I don't know. Maybe it is. I don't think either one is particularly like terribly predictable. Binary, yes. But like the way that you actually use the skills and in what order and where you use them is pretty unpredictable, especially with Briar. So I guess I would agree with you. It is more predictable than Briar, but it's also more predictable than Akali or something like that, right? Like
of course.
I think we're talking about pretty unpredictable champs here.
Like Holly has like tons of nuance. Nefiri
Exactly.
is just like convoluted talent, essentially.
Eh, yeah, in a lot of ways she is. Anyway, I think she's a strong champion, and yeah, I'm just so scared of her roams that I ban her most games, depending on what the team comps look like. Or
Alright, let's
my,
go on to something interesting. Let's talk
Mhm.
about Rek'Sai. We got more damage during the 3 auto attacks on her Q, which is really good in the jungle because it's in 360 AoE swipe kind of thing. And then we got more damage on her W when she pops out and can now knock up multiple people these days, which is a really cool change way back when. Except they nerfed it. I don't know why I thought
Mhm.
that was a buff. Okay.
I was about to drop the hammer on the resident Rek'Sai expert, and he caught himself just in time.
I am certainly no expert on Rek'Sai.
Well, between the two of us, you are.
I know what the buttons do.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
that's in like the 86th percentile already. Yeah,
Yeah, you're right.
these are nerfs. How much do you think this is gonna hurt her?
Gaining 10% on the Q, I feel like, is secretly pretty strong with her clear, just because she has one of the most, maybe the most brain dead clear in the game. I mean, you literally just right click on anything and you automatically hit every jungle camp with her Q.
How about losing 10% on our Q?
Wow, I thought I don't know why I thought that was a buff too. I guess I'm dyslexic over here. I'm about to go
All
out.
right.
I'm about to go out to eat, so it's the hunger pains or something.
Where are
Okay,
you
you're right.
going?
My bad. Then that. I mean, it's still a brain dead clear, but you're right. That's just slower.
All right, we've talked enough about League. Where are you going for lunch, Chrissy?
I'm actually going to CC's Pizza. You know what that is?
Oh yeah. I went there like twice when I was in college. We had a CC's near UF.
Yeah, I haven't been there in like ages, but I'm
It's
meeting
not
some.
very good pizza, but you can eat all of it that you want.
You're right. It's not super good, but I really hate tomato sauce, and you can get like all the
Oh yeah, they have a lot of different white
yeah,
pizzas.
you can get all the
Those.
Alfredo and yummy stuff
Yeah,
you want. So I'm meeting someone up there and going to CC. So
yeah. I kind of liked grabbing some of the pasta too. It felt like a bonus because I always thought I was going there just for pizza.
bro, you don't go there for anything other than pizza, you heretic.
Well, I didn't. I went there for pizza, but then like the pasta was a bonus. It's like, hey, I can shove this scoop of Alfredo sauce on
It's
a
like
bowl of like cold Alfredo penne pasta. Why not?
that's like going to some like Asian buffet and then eating their American desserts that are like hard pieces of crap.
Guilty as charged.
Okay,
I
next up
want to
we've
say
got
real quickly with Nyla, like yeah, these are just small changes, but the base health regen, something that would not matter much for most champs. One of her weaknesses is unless she's all inning, she's getting poked out in the laning phase a bunch. She's taking a hit here and a hit there, and she can't really retaliate. So that extra health regen will be nice.
true, and if you know your numbers, all ranged AD carries have pathetic base health regen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next up we've got the reworked Skarner. We've got less health. I read that correctly. We got less health, and then in Perfect Riot Hypocrisy, we've got health growth. We've got, so what does this go? We got 3 more, so what is it?
Basically,
3 times 18, but we lose 40.
Yeah. So it's, you get plus 11 at level 18.
Brilliant net gain. Okay, I can live with that. As long as it's the better at 18, I don't care.
However, for most of the game, when it matters, right, when 30 or 40 health is going to matter, you're a little bit behind. And
You're
it's the same
right.
thing with Red Vibration. They're making it stronger late game, but weaker early, kind of when these base numbers really matter. So this is a small joiner overall, but
you're right. This is the kind of buff I like when it's like ultimately better. But this is going to make it way harder to stave off that 10-minute surrender vote.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I guess he was a little too good early, or they just wanted to make him to another Aurelion Soul. I don't know.
His passive's dummy strong. I can't believe it doesn't have like a static on-hit cooldown.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's like a Gigabork.
Yeah,
Okay.
you gotta hit him with 3 different things.
His passive? No, his passive's just every auto attack.
Oh, right.
No, that's why it's so crazy. It doesn't. That's what I was saying. It should have an on-hit cooldown or something.
Oh, no. I was right. Enemies afflicted with 3 stacks take the magic damage.
Yeah, but after that, I think it just.
Oh, it doesn't clear the stacks?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, that's brutal. Okay, yeah. Damn, you could like machine gun someone.
Crazy passive for a guy that just builds tank stats.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, next up we've got something interesting here with Talon, where they're making it so his Q, if you've ever played Talon, you know just how goofy his second part of his Q looks when you're like in melee range. Now they're giving this a cast time, so this is kind of a nerf, whereas before, there's like kind of a built-in AI script with this guy's Q, where if he Qs you, it immediately buffers another Q and essentially locks on to what your first auto attack hit. Twisted Fate kind of has something similar. So now they're putting a cast time on this.
No. It always had a 0.25. You're a mess today, my friend. So it always had a quarter-second cast time, which is pretty standard for most skills. There are some that are instant, but most skills have a quarter-second cast time. They're changing that to his attack wind-up, and usually the attack wind-up is about 15 to 20% of somebody's auto-attack animation. And so even if he's got like an attack speed of just like 1 per second or something like that, this would still be a buff, and as he gets more attack speed as the game goes on from, certain, lethality items or whatever that he might buy, the wind-up will become even lower, is how the attack wind-up works. It scales with your attack speed. So this is actually a buff and should make him feel smoother to play. And then in addition to that, a little bit of extra damage on Rake, except to monsters.
Seems kind of silly considering his Q is already like lightning quick.
Yeah, but like you said, it can be like slightly awkward when he tries to use it.
I mean, yeah, it looks awkward as hell. That doesn't mean it's just still fast.
Okay, that's
fair. It just
fair.
looks goofy.
But for somebody who wants to get the combo out really quick, this just makes it a little bit easier to do. I don't mind it. Talon's a cool champ.
He's okay. I feel like he's a bit blah.
He's a little bit cheesy, but he's still cool.
He's not as cool as Zed.
Way cooler than Tryndamere, though. Tell me about Tryndamere.
Let's see. Tryndamere, he's losing some of the permanent stats he gains from maxing his Q first, which this is kind of crucial for his cheesiness in the laning phase to crit a little harder in the early game than most champions do, since he has kind of like a soft item advantage through maxing his Q. Sure, it's only 5 extra damage, but a huge portion of Tryndamere's pressure is maintaining like priority and in being annoying the first like 3 levels essentially. That's like literally his whole reason for being, is to establish dominance in like the first 3 levels.
Yeah, so what you could read this as is similar to a 580 base 80 nerf, because it's going to take away 5 AD at all levels. But it also is bonus attack damage that's being taken away. So that means you're also losing an additional 6 or 7 damage off of his spinning slash every single time.
Yeah.
And then they reduced the base damage by spinning slash by an additional 5 with this explicit nerf.
Yeah, his spinning
Yeah,
slash honestly has more damage than it probably should for its like excessive mobility.
agreed. Agreed.
And I
It's a
do
great
mean
escape, and
excessive.
it also is a good, once you use the W, like spinning slash gets you into range, just start whacking him over and over with his increased attack range. Yeah, this is a really cheesy champ, and good riddance to him with these nerfs.
Yeah, I just don't think it'll ever be enough. But they did get rid of lethal tempo, which he basically only takes. He's probably just taking Conqueror now, so he'll just crit you harder in the early game. So go
Yeah,
figure.
that's true. I'm kind of happy to see him not being able to take lethal tempo, but yeah, yikes.
All right, next up we've got Twisted Fate. We've got less AD. We've got an AP ratio nerf on his wild cards, which we're probably finally still in a good position to actually be useful as a laning push tool again, like they were in ages past.
Uh-huh.
And then we've got an increased mana cost on his W.
Significantly increased, but they're giving that back on the blue card mana restore. So they're basically nerfing the yellow and red card, gold and red card.
True dat.
My guess is for that change, they probably wanted to nerf explicitly the red card wave clear. Is my guess. But damn, like let's not sleep on that stat change. That is 0.8 attack damage less per level times 17 levels. You're losing about 14 AD at level 18. That is fucking huge.
Yeah, if you're
What are
being a
they trying to do
goofball.
here? Like, I don't know, maybe 6 months, a year ago, they finally gave and said, yeah, okay, fine, we're going to really support the Twisted Fate AD build and turn him into like an AD marksman type of champion.
That was always foolish for them to have gone there.
It was, and they decided we're gonna like steer into that curb, and they reduced his AP ratios at the time. Now they're reducing it even slightly further, but they're taking away so much AD growth. He's not going to be able to build up enough AD to use those AD ratios on his skills. What the hell are they doing?
I feel so bad for this champion because he's so old, but the solutions to like his problems are like so easy to fix. Like all he needs is better wave clear, so he's less inclined to have to interact with his mid laner, so he's more able to roam.
I think all you have to do is just rework the E into something that's a skill, and actually does things, and you probably have a good champ.
Yeah, they could give him a whole new E, and that would be something useful. Like what else would you want out of his E? Because he already has like slow, hard CSC. What would you want his E to be?
I don't know. Maybe maybe just mobility and damage.
No, I can't give him mobility.
I think you can. He's still so squishy.
His calling card is that he loses every lane matchup.
I don't think giving him a little bit of mobility is going to change that.
No, I think.
That is funny to call that a calling card, though.
Yeah, you like that?
I do like that, and you even made an unintentional pun.
I think it. I wouldn't mind if it was some other kind of. He's a silly champion, so his E should be kind of something kind of silly. I wouldn't mind if it was some other kind of form of goal generation, where he just tries to continue to like get up the curve faster on his counterpart, just because he has some kind of. It could be something that's similar to what's the keystone that you hit someone and make first strike. Yeah, first strike. It could be. I'm not saying it has to be that, but some kind of utility effect that also can like potentially generate gold. Because I like the fact that his passive also generates gold, and I think a good strategy would be if he just like farms it up. He tries to get ahead of the curve in terms of items, because even if he's fed as fuck and is doing well, he still loses almost every 1v1 against any counterpart of his. So, that's why I think would be a better emphasis for him.
It's an interesting idea. You always have to be careful about putting too much gold generation into someone's kit because it really screws up their power curve. It makes them so strong mid game and then so weak late game once everybody else has already like completed their items.
Yeah, I don't think that's too much of a problem with Twisted Fate.
Yeah, I know. He already kind of has that power curve to an extent. I get it.
I think if he's ahead, it's just even.
But yeah, minus 14 AD for a champ that they've messed with the ratio so much that you want to build him AD is just. This is this is vehicular homicide. They ran him over with a truck. They laughed at him. They put the truck in reverse and ran over him again.
I don't think it's quite that damning, considering how long he was infinitely worse in the game for. Like 10 years, he was pretty much untouched, and he was complete garbage for quite a long time. The last 2 or 3 years, he's gotten a huge series of buffs, particularly his W. I don't think he's that far from being like, a relatively mainstream pick. They just need to de-emphasize the parts of his game that he shouldn't be giving a shit about and emphasize the whole part of his kit, which is just to push out and roam,
What if they changed it, Stack Deck from maybe changed the name too, but changed it from like increasing his attack speed and gave him a bonus on every fourth card to just giving him a AP ratio on every auto attack.
You mean he should get a built-in Nashor's Tooth?
I think you should get a built-in Nashor's Tooth if they want to emphasize the auto attacks in any way whatsoever. I think they should be pushing him back into going AP.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really thought about it, but if you're going to keep stacked deck, it should be something that implies he's cheating. That's why I said the money thing.
I see. Alright, we can workshop it if we ever do Champion Judgment again, but and I hope we do. That was my favorite video. But anyway, yeah, this is I think damning and makes TF not worth using in any scenario, personally.
It's not that bad. Like I said, he was way, way, way worse for like 10 years. This is only like a 5 or 10% walk back on how garbage he used to be.
He did used to be pretty bad.
He was terrible. The ratio on his Q was only like 60 or 75%, and his W damage was absolutely laughable.
I'd still rather have 5 Twisted Fates on my team than 1 Nidalee.
Shit, man. I don't know which one's worse. I think Nidalee actually has as rare as it might be, I think she has a higher ceiling to snowball a game, where I feel like Twisted Fate is like, you're really praying that,
Yeah, but there's 5 of them.
No, I think 5 Nidalees are better than 5 Twisted Fates.
Oh, definitely not.
I think if everyone in the game was like gold, I think 5 Nidalees would take a dump on 5 Twisted Fates. Nidalee's easier to use,
No, man, the 5 5 Twisted Fates could all warp at the same time and just absolutely wreck 1 Nidalee.
Yeah, but if you know where he's going to teleport out because the thing lights up, everyone could just throw their spear at that thing. Because it's telegraphed. It's telegraphed. Anyway, next on, let's move to...
The Twisted Fates get really smart, and as the spear is coming, they'll just hit the Zhonya's button.
They gotta come out first.
And then once the spear is missed, there's nothing they can do.
They could just run away, because that's half of what Nidalee does.
Oh, 500 IQ right there. I didn't think of that.
Exactly. Let us wait for their 5-second Q cooldown and then come back. That's all Nidalee does is run away and throw Qs.
True.
Alright, next up we've got Victor. We've got some wicked split pushing options opening up here, as now the second half of his Q does 100 bonus damage to buildings, and seeing as how you almost always get Lich Bane, that is some serious chunking power.
Why are we doing this?
I know there's a pretty up and coming famous player who plays a pretty mean Victor, and all he does is run off by himself and gets like 700 CS.
Oh my god, seriously. Victor is like scary as hell when he's like very, very fed.
Yeah, when he's like 3 items up, he's like 100 to 0. That's for sure.
Yeah, even when he is even in the late game with 6 items, right? He doesn't need to be any items up. He will 100 to 0 you.
Yeah, he's good burst.
He will 100 to 0 anybody except like a full tank.
It's a great example of how they can turn an incredibly mediocre champ into a great champion after like a number of mini reworks.
Yeah, I think he occupies an interesting, decent place in the game. And yeah, like this is nice for him. It's just more damage against turrets. Usually, Victor's not looking to do a lot of damage against turrets or be the split pusher, but can hurt.
All right, and then next up, we've got one of my all-time favorite champions with an absolutely Stone Age change here. This is something that I don't think his pool has been changed in maybe close to 10 or 12 years, or at least since his
changed a few times,
rework.
Cooldown, but that's it.
Alright, so what we're getting here is a nerf to the health cost, which was always pretty damning, but it's a wicked...
This is lower health cost. This is a buff. This is all buffs.
That's what I said.
You said a nerf to the health cost. I suppose the health cost itself got bumped down. Yeah.
That's what I meant, yeah.
Okay.
So they're lowering the health cost, which was always damning, but it's such an incredibly powerful ability that gets on a fairly low cooldown at higher levels. And then they're also increasing the damage component, which is the health ratio.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of flies under the radar. Most people kind of forget that there's actually a damage component of this ability that's actually a dot if you happen to be on top of the pool. It's not much.
Oh, I forget that one a lot, yeah.
Yeah, it's not much, but if you have like a ton of AP, which means then you have 4,000 HP, then it actually does like 500 or 600 damage over like 2 seconds or something. Now this next one's kind of the funny part, because for the longest time, the health cost would be such that you'd always, especially in the late game, you'd lose 100 of health just to cast this, and then only the damage would never really amount to as much as the cost. But now they're doubling the healing from the damage, so this could have some crazy implications, especially if he's like in a group of people. He could easily restore like a ton of health off of this now.
Yeah, he heals so much more from this now, in addition to spending less health to use it. 300 magic damage per champion per tick, plus bonus health ratio, not AP. Although obviously AP converts to health for Vlad. And that's per champion over the course of Sanguine Pool, and now he's getting 30% of that back, which could be a couple thousand damage if you're able to get over 2 or more enemy champions. You can get 400, 500, 600 health back now in like an ideal perfect use of this ability, which is a lot more than you're spending to even use it. This is pretty crazy good. I think Vladimir, I always think of him as a strong champion. I haven't seen as much of him recently, but I don't think he's been weak. This is big.
It is very good, but
this is bloody good, as British say.
It is good, but it's the most underutilized part of his kit. So
right.
You're not going to see this actually be too abusive that many times. Especially because it's kind of hard to get multiple champions under your pool at the same time. Because usually you're using the pool to run away from people.
Yeah, or to dodge skill shots where you might not be going all the way in. You might just be trying to keep your regular distance and be able to keep using your Q. But I'd say the best Vladimirs will find, particularly when they're ahead and they're the ones that are always on the aggressive, are going to find great uses for this.
Oh, most assuredly. One of the fun thing I like to do is the old Flash W, because one thing that no Vladimir ever utilizes is that his W is also a slow if someone's on top of you. And it's his only form of CC, so it's like, well, gotta slow him down somehow.
And that makes it easy once you're on them to stick to them.
Oh, once they touch the pool, they can't like get out of the slow. He moves too fast in his W.
Right. Unless
Yeah.
they have dashes or willing to, commit their F. Yeah.
If this was any crazier, they should make people grounded that are inside of his W, right? I mean, it only lasts like 2 seconds.
Well, blood is thicker than water. So maybe it's too goopy to get out of.
Alright, let's wrap this up. We've got some extra armor for Yone. Whoop-de-doo.
Next.
Then we got another timeless change here for Yuumi. We've got a lower cooldown on her passive. That used to be her E, or no wait, it still is her E. I think it used to be her passive briefly. Okay, so now...
Yeah, Yuumi's one of the...
This champion is in constant flux. It's hard to keep my memory straight.
Yeah, so this is a nice buff because the zoomies is the heal and speed up. That's probably her most important skill.
I'm not sure it still gives a heal.
Does it not give any healing?
It used to for the longest time.
You're right, it's a shield. Yeah. Shield and mana restore for her anchor. Yeah. Still nice to be able to restore mana more often, but Yuumi is one of those champions that I think, like I said on Gnar in our last video, is one of those champions that that Riot is honestly happy to let, maybe not happy, but content, willing to let sit in an underpowered state forever until they're going to get a replay.
Oh, I don't think you compare Yuumi to Gnar. I think Gnar is in a much better place in the game. Yuumi is in constant flux and chaos because the untargetability nature of her anchor thing is just so problematic,
Let me say this to because you're correct about that, but to expand on your point and to come back to mine, Gnar is in a place where in general he's somewhat healthy for the game, but because at the pro level it makes the game so boring, that the fact that everybody's playing around those timing windows, that's the reason that they're content to let him sit in an underpowered state. Yuumi is just problematic at all levels in the game for a lot of reasons, the biggest one of which is exactly what you said, the untargetability completely makes it impossible to interact with her. Yuumi is from the jump, I think a champion that most of the community has hated, and probably most of the people on the Riot team not really particularly liked either. And I hope that whoever designed her got fired. But yeah, for very different reasons, Riot is happy to let both of them languish in an underpowered state and only be played by people who really love them.
I don't think Gnar is underpowered. I think he's pretty balanced.
He's definitely in an underpowered state right now.
I think maybe because of the way his passive functions, it forces people to play around him in a certain degree, but I don't think that necessarily makes him underpowered. Because I've laned against him a million times, and I don't think he's really been underpowered at any point in his life cycle.
He can be annoying with those boomerangs if he builds attack speed. Yeah, even the highest win rate Gnar build for Emerald Plus has less than a 50%, slightly less than a 50% win rate, but that's the most winning build. And that's after the buffs that he got last patch, which were, in fairness, fairly small. Yeah, he's been in an underpowered state for a few years. And I think Riot is intentionally letting him sit there. Same for Yuumi. Generally in an underpowered state unless they miss on a balanced patch. And they're happy to let her stay there because she's a champion that doesn't have a lot of interaction. And is generally played as a crutch for low elo players. Duoing with a higher elo team or duo Q teammate.
Alright, let's talk about some items. Don't have much to say about this.
Not many items to actually talk about here.
Mainly just some fluff. Let's see if we can find something interesting. I
do want to talk about Noonquiver, if you don't mind.
Which one?
Noonquiver. At the same time that they gave it a more... Because this is an item that doesn't have any type of special ability. It's just a stick of stats. and a way to combine a few small items into a slightly bigger one so you don't run out of room. So at the same time that they're giving it an easier build path, they're also reducing the AD from 25 to 20, which is the exact same amount you're just getting from the 2 longsword components. And this is really interesting. I don't like it, but it's interesting to talk about. Because what this is really doing is it's putting you in a position where it's no longer worth it to take a risky back in order to try and get up to the Noon Quiver. As long as you have the spots to buy the longswords, all you're getting from combining the item is 5% crit chance, which is nothing.
Maybe, but the combined cost is $100.
Right. But what I'm saying is, if you're sitting in base and you have 45 gold to go, just get back out onto the map. It's not worth it to sit there for the combine. And in addition to that, don't take it. If you're even if you're a couple hundred gold behind and can't buy that last longsword, you're not losing so much by going back and just buying 1 longsword and 1 cloak and getting back to lane, as opposed to buying the Noon Quiver. It's not worth it to do that if you're taking a risky back and staying in lane long enough that maybe somebody will kill you or you just lose map pressure. Dude. Get out, get back to base, get back out onto the map, go for the objective. Noon Quiver is just not worth waiting for or taking a risky back for anymore.
Dude, even if this didn't lose 5 damage, no AD carry is going to sit in the fountain for over a minute and lose like 2 to 3 waves.
Before you were also losing the 10 attack damage on the longsword because you couldn't build the last longsword. You get it? So you're actually losing 15 AD and 5 crit chance for your next venture out onto the map before you take your next back. And that might be worth waiting 30 seconds, especially if a fight is about to start in 45 seconds over an objective.
That is such a nuanced take from someone that doesn't play AD carry. There ain't no way you didn't read that or look that up somewhere.
No, man, I came up with that. That is a Jason original.
I don't believe you.
I don't know how I'm going to convince you.
Right up there with the ability haste versus cooldown reduction con you tried to sell me.
Oh my god, I've been saying that since season 4!
That's the con you've been trying to sell me. I predicted ability haste back in 2010.
And I'll tell you why I thought of it. It's
I know, you tell me the same shit every time, whatever.
I will die on that hill if I have to.
You tell me the same shit every time, yeah.
I know. Any other interesting? We got the buff on Void Staff, which I think is nice.
It's definitely nice. Just makes the other version of Void Staff even more of a joke.
Oh my god, yeah, that Crypt Bloom crap.
That thing is so silly. I don't know who they thought was going to use that.
Yeah, maybe like I don't know, someone like Kali or like Diana, who is going in anyway, but like
doesn't even heal for enough to make it clutch.
It doesn't, and the cooldown on it is so long you can't even reset city.
That would actually be silly if you could do that.
I love the idea of having 2 different magic pen items, one which has like interesting utility and one which is more like a stat stick. But the utility that they chose on that was so dumb.
It feels very out of place for a magic pen item.
100% it does, yeah. It's almost like a supportive item.
They need to buff the crap out of it if they want to keep it, and then they need to make a 3rd Void Staff item that actually does something interesting.
Yeah, I agree with you. But nice extra AP and Void Staff. There's this kind of a lot of cases where mages don't even buy this when they should. So yeah.
I think it's
anything else. Cyrilda's Grudge got a little bit of a buff. Like this will make the Cyrilda's Grudge users better against tanks. So this is, I don't know, like neither of us really play assassins at all. So I was just wondering what you think about this, because in theory this seems like a really good item for an assassin who wants to like burst squishies, but also sees like 1 or maybe 2 really important tanks on the other team that they have to be able to get through. Maybe because they don't have like a fed ADC on their team.
Well, here's the thing with this item.
Yeah.
Before they gave the armor pen lethality scaling, this was already a ludicrously good item, because the
this is
only
very
alternative for this item was Lord Dominik's or Mortal Reminder, because they're the only items that have flat percentage armor pen. But you always opt into this one because of the utility of the slow, and it used to give a ton of ability haste. Now, it still gives ability haste, which is definitely something an assassin would want, but now this has just gone into absolute overdrive because it did not lose any of the armor pen, and now the armor pen can go up like tenfold by the rest of your items having lethality. So when this item got a slight rework, I think it literally just went off the charts for assassins.
You absolutely love this item. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it does a lot of good things, right? It gives you the AD, as long as you have at least one skill that you're going to be able to use twice in a combo in a fight. The ability haste helps, and yeah, and it gets you the lethality to get through squishies and the armored penetration to get through tanks. It's a very good combined assassin item. I guess it's kind of a good ADC item in some cases too, right?
I mean, it's definitely not going to be bad now that Lethal Tempo is no longer in the game. It doesn't really not make sense to buy it. And it's never mutually exclusive with Black Cleaver, so the silliness has no end.
That's true. That's true. Then you're getting through eventually over 50% of their armor.
I think it's
Yeah.
multiplicative and not additive, but it is strong.
Even then, the number could eventually total over 50, since this will be a little over 30. I think Black Cleaver will be a little over 30, right?
I don't know the
very,
math,
very
but they're
strong.
both good and they both have great stats anyway.
Absolutely, and yeah, even ADCs, as long as they don't really need the attack speed and crit chance, this could be good.
Yeah, like in this day and age, now that we don't have Lethal Tempo, you could easily buy this in Black Cleaver on Ezreal, Misfortune, or Lucian, and you would
Oh,
want for
yeah.
not because all three of them want all of these stats.
And normally
So
they have a lot of trouble getting through tanks. Yeah. That's actually a pretty good idea. Yeah, I like this on like an MF or Ezreal especially. I've actually seen this built on Ezreal before.
yeah.
Yeah, great call there. Anything else? I think everything else is just build paths and not particularly interesting ones.
Nope. Next up, we've got some runes, and basically just one where First Strike suddenly was too good in the vein of Kleptomancy. Now it's going to keep getting nerfed until they find a way to replace it with somehow an even goofier Inspiration Keystone.
This came out at 10%. Yeah, and this is still probably the best thing you can get for the Inspiration Keystones. There's nothing real good there.
I think the Slow Beam one can be pretty good on a number of supports. I definitely think it's more versatile than First Strike is.
Well, it's only versatile in terms of if you have a champ that can proc it, right? A lot of champs can't even proc it at all, and therefore it's not versatile in that sense.
It's true
Yeah,
that only
yeah.
a percentage of the champions can make use of Glacial Augment, but
Yeah.
the roster of champions who are good at using First Strike, I feel, is even more limited.
I don't know about that. There's all the assassins, all of the long range like bursty mages.
I'm not saying they can't use it, but how often do you see them opt into using this instead of Comet, Electrocute, etc.?
More often than you seem to think, but not real often. Maybe like I see it on long range mages. Maybe I don't know, 15% of the time. Luxes, Zareths, Vel'Koz's, champs like that. Yeah. It's more common to go source tree just because there's so many good things for mages there, and then you can take like yellow, green as
All
your
right, let's
secondary.
just agree that Unsealed Spellbook is better than both of these.
Man, I remember Unsealed Spellbook just making the rounds of pro play.
Yeah, I remember. Wasn't there a period where like all 10 people were taking it for like a couple months?
Yeah, you'd see it on like 5 or 6 different champs, and they'd really be using it for those objective fights and to get like the common teleports, and oh man, those were the times. Anyway, yeah, this is a fairly big nerf to First Strike. Not only are you getting less gold, but just 1% less bonus damage means 1% less damage with everything that you want to do with somebody who's going to be like burst comboing as a First Strike user would.
Plus, if I'm
So,
not mistaken, if I understand the mechanic properly, the
uh-huh.
damage amp goes into the triggering attack, and the triggering attack's damage is what the gold value is based off of, no?
I thought that the damage amp was everything after your first attack. Let me
No,
see
I
if
think one of the first things I looked up when they added this to the game was if the initial attack benefited from the damage amp.
dealing damage.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, within the first 0.25 seconds of champion combat, grants gold and first strike, causing your damage. Um, okay, yeah. It looks like it is. Okay, it's. Oh no, grants first strike for 3 seconds. First strike for 3 seconds, causing all of your post mitigation damage to deal 7% bonus true damage. So I was correct. It's everything after the initial strike for 3 seconds.
All right.
And yeah, that's pretty significant, even to lose 1% off of that. I still think it's, for most champs, if they're going inspiration, the best inspiration you can take.
All
I'm
right.
looking forward to season 16, 2026, where we probably see like half of the runes in the game reworked, and hopefully into something better than the crap they gave us a few patches ago.
That's not the future I see for the game. I think they're just going to slowly get rid of more systems, and it's going to be just like the bots, where as time goes by, you just instantly are granted more of the loadout you chose in the lobby.
Oh, what a
Like
dark future you predict.
you don't have runes, you don't have masteries, you don't have items. It's just after 5 minute mark, your mythic just shows up in your inventory.
It's just like an automatic mythic for each champion.
Well, your first core item or whatever, whatever the loadout you choose in the loading screen. After like 5 minutes, you get that, and then 10 minutes, you get your second item by default, and it's just like the game just runs on a rail, you know.
Well, a warning to any designers thinking of doing that. Heroes of the Storm died a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it'll be like Heroes of the Storm. You'll have team levels. You'll never stand out. You can't tell your gold apart. Your whole team shares XP. Just a bunch of like socialist ideas or something.
Okay, Chris Stradamus. I think you need to take a nap.
I mean, I feel like that's the trend the game's going towards.
I don't know about that. We have like such like complex like skill descriptions and little like balance changes where now you're getting 0.125% of your bonus health in percent armor penetration per level.
They'll still constantly fidget with like the loadout you can choose, of
Plus
course.
0.35% armor penetration per 5% of your bonus AD.
Yeah.
Come meet the new boss. Sam is the old boss.
I'm just curious how they're going to make split pushing even worse in the seasons to come. Do you think it can get worse?
When you say worse, you mean like more oppressive or more bad to use as a strategy?
Uh,
Are you
what do
saying
you
more oppressive? Like it's too good right now? It's too common?
like too obnoxious to deal with, too common, too prevalent, too effective? How worse do you think they can make it in the next
Here's
two?
how bad they can make it. They can create an item that makes you take 75% less damage from champions while you haven't attacked them and you're near an enemy turret. So that you can just literally sit under the turret and whack it over and over and emote at the other team while they use everything on you and can't kill you.
I feel like that's a bit too formal. It'd have to be something where you don't even have to be in the lane, but somehow at the same time be an incredibly aggravating split pushing threat. Something like the Banner of Command, Void Rot Portal,
Call that item?
the ZZ Rot Portal, Banner of Command era kind of thing.
I was gonna say Wrecker.
Well, that just made turrets stop shooting.
I know. They're gonna bring it back and say new question mark item.
That if they would do that if they brought it back. Yeah.
Yeah.
They'd give it a new dumb name like Dumb Wrecker or something.
Dumb Wrecker. Dumb Maker. Yeah, maybe with like all these like just like random skills that they're letting you just like randomly like damage a turret with. Maybe at some point they'll just say fuck it, like let's just let every AoE skill in the game just hit turrets and damage them.
That's right. They
You'll
need to
have
make
like you'll have Luxes damaging targets from you'll have Luxes damaging turrets from across the map. You'll have Kaisa shooting enemy turrets from their own base.
That's a good idea. That's a great idea. To make it worse, just make all turrets able to take damage from all champion abilities.
All abilities, yeah.
That's a great idea, man.
You know, you'll have like the Ashe in the base just shooting their R on cooldown at enemy turrets.
And if she lines it up right, she can hit all three.
Yes.
And that's another thing. They need to make all the turrets all vulnerable at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
That way you can work on them at your own pace, you know.
Yeah,
and that way if you're Lux, you can just line it up.
Just, run behind the first two turrets, buy that item that makes them not take damage, and just like whack on the.
Oh no! I came up. I came.
Once the enemies all come at them, they'll just run away real quick.
Bro, I came up with the checkmate. Here's the thing.
Uh-huh.
In Season 16, you can now take out the inhibitor without taking out any of the lane turrets yet.
Okay. So the only thing you need to get is the inhibitor, and then the Nexus turrets, and the Nexus.
This will encourage.
Yorick, of course, can do that in about 4 seconds.
This will encourage everyone to forget the laning phase and just stock up on control wards and run up to the base wall and dump them over the side, and then just randomly teleport over and over, and just bypass the laning phase so they can just only go for the inhibitors.
Okay, I have an even better idea.
Gotta make teleport more annoying. That's the cornerstone of annoying split pushing.
Damage over time that's on terrain. So like Singe's Q and Cassiopeia's miasma. It doesn't tick down. It doesn't ever disappear while it's over an enemy structure. So it just sits there and damages the structure every tick forever.
I got a good idea for an item.
Uh-huh.
It's a support item, so it's like 2400 or whatever.
Yeah.
But laners start taking it because when your teleport's on cooldown, every time you last hit a minion, it reduces the cooldown of your teleport by like 20 seconds.
Okay, so that whenever
then you can teleport
item
more.
Is made these days, it can't only have one passive. You know what? It can have one passive, but it also needs an active. So
no. Its other passive is it just permanently gives you the enhanced recall too.
Okay, so it gives you the enhanced recall. I guess you don't need the.
You don't need Rift Herald. That's old school.
You don't need Rift Herald anymore. Like Rift Herald's gonna be out of the game. They're gonna replace it with like 200 Voidling. So we've got that. We've got the 20% reduced teleport, and then it also has an active. Use it on an enemy turret, and instead of firing at you, it starts firing at its own team.
I don't know. That doesn't do damage to the turret itself unless you like sabotage.
Well, no, but it clears the enemy, so you can walk up to the turret afterwards and whack it a few times.
And it's global, so you can just put it on the Nexus turrets, and it'll kill the wave as it comes out of the Nexus.
Yeah, it just starts like
that way.
It just starts lobbing quirky Qs at its own wave.
And and Singed is allowed to buy 4 of them, and he just freezes. He just proxies the waves from base.
Limited to 4 Doomsday items.
Hopefully they'll implement all 6 or 7 of these ideas within the next 2 years. I really think it would improve the quality of the game.
And then, of course, the next patch, David Freak Turley will get on the patch notes and being like, well, we like what this has done for split pushing, but we feel like it left ADCs in kind of a bad place.
They need to split push too, yeah. There needs to be an item that increases their attack range by just enough to shoot the inhibitor from over the wall. While being out of tower range, of course.
So we decided to make rapid fire cannon increase your attack range by 1600.
But only when attacking inhibitors, yeah.
And the passive stacks up to 4 times. You build up stacks of the extra range, and then Senna uses it, and she can attack the enemy inhibitor from her own fountain.
I think it.
Higher Arthredo.
Yeah. You gotta opt into more teleport cheese because that makes for the best unsatisfying split pushing.
I have to admit, I really like when teleport is common in the game. I don't use it real well, so I don't use it often. But I do think it's fun for teams to be able to say, oh, you're putting in 2 chips for this fight, I'm putting in 3, and the other team's like, no, we're sending our TP, we're putting in 4 chips. It's like raising someone over and over in poker, and eventually someone collapses. I do find it fun. All right, what's the dumbest new emote that they added in this patch? Because I do actually like some of these.
That's tough because I think all emotes are dumb.
Well, it's cute. I think the worst one is first or eighth because it just basically legitimizes bad behavior. For all those assholes that drop out of Clash after they lose their first game and ruin the tournament for everyone.
Neat.
Man, stop legitimizing bad behavior, right? We went way off the rails here. This is fun. Any other?
We're just reading from
any other doomed visions of the future that you want to share before we get going?
I was just reading the 2016 preseason patch script over here. Those were the preseason. That was the 2016 preseason script I was reading, man.
What did the intro to that script say? How did they introduce it?
How did they introduce it?
Yeah.
I don't know. They've never really needed to introduce anything that was game breaking or game changing.
I think they said like we really thought that
you mean how do they give one of their like slap in the face, spitting your like shit?
Our changes to split pushing and action gameplay in seasons 15.
How do they give one of their bullshit rationalizations on you to sell it to you kind of things?
Yeah. But what we thought the game needed was more items and fewer runes. So, in a move that will surely be popular, we decided to separate the great items from the good ones.
That's what they're going. They're just going to tap into their big hat of 57 League of Legends cliches.
You think there's like a bingo card that people have?
It's not going to make sense anymore by
they put it.
By 2016. It's just going to be like 57 cliches back to back.
When a designer says windows of opportunity, like somebody marks off the corner space on their bingo card.
Good moments from great moments, bad ones from the good ones, all that kind of stuff. We want to maintain a champion's identity, but not really. Quirky.
Free space is like make a bad pun about a champion's ability.
Oh yeah. Just want to make sure to address the people reading the patch notes as if they're 12-year-olds instead of the 30-year-olds who've been playing this game for 15 years.
I do want to be fair and say that like a lot of the time the actual design thoughts they have in terms of like what they want to do for the game, right, tend to be very smart and things that only an experienced or thoughtful designer would come up with. I just think that the reason we often scratch our heads on these on some of the changes on these notes is just that the knock-on effects of what they're doing.
They can't be that smart and forward thinking if they got to make 50 changes every 2 weeks for 10 years.
They put their goals so far behind where they want it to be. They end up they end up putting themselves in a position where they actually have to reverse what they were trying to do even more than they accomplished. And I think that's where the real head scratchers come.
No game that's managed by people that have to make this many changes this consistently is smart. I
I mean,
can't compare League of Legends to any other game that gets changes with this intensity this frequently.
look, I know you love like your StarCraft and whatever. The only
No,
reason
not
that didn't
just a
get more,
strategy game. That's different. I understand that that's obviously not in flux as much as this.
the only reason that didn't get as many changes as it did, or something like League, is because they don't have the team to do it.
When StarCraft 2 was like in its prime, it didn't receive anywhere near this many changes.
Right, because it didn't have a big team to make this many changes and to actually test all the changes and and make sure that it wouldn't ruin the game when they went live with it. Like when you have an extremely competitive game, particularly with an esports focus, and the game has so many different factions or so many different in this case champions or characters that you can play. It's never going to be in perfect balance. Everything is going to change with the meta. And when they want to be aggressive because they want the high level play to be so closely and evenly balanced, then you are going to have this many changes. We can agree about whether they're good changes or bad changes, and I think often we do agree that some of them are not the best. But I don't blame them for making a lot of little changes over time. It's something that you need to do in an extremely competitive focused game. If this were like a single player experience or a more casual game, this would would not be necessary to for us to be sitting here making a 2.5 hour patch notes video every 2 weeks.
Well, I've been reading up on these ARAM changes. I definitely agreed that Gangplank needed to do 5% more damage in ARAM. He's very difficult to play well in ARAM. It's so chaotic.
Ah, dude.
He's a very chaotic champion to navigate.
Man. If there is one place where they've really shit the bed, it's ARAM.
Alright. Stop beating a dead horse here.
So you don't want like 100 new Doom items for Season 16?
No, I think they just need to... I'm all about the accelerationism. I think the only way things will get better or just end is if they get much worse, much faster. So I think they should really leverage into making split pushing worse. Because I think it's clear over my 15 years playing this game that is the thing that slowly creeped into and infested this game the most and has made it the least fun and most intrusive and annoying aspect of the game over time. So I think they just make that worse.
I gotcha, man. Alright, well, we had some laughs, we had some tears, particularly with that TF change, and I don't know, I had a good time. I hope you did too.
Oh yeah, it's always fun talking about League.
I like hanging with you and doing this.
Yeah, it's fun. I like keeping up with this. Alright, that does it for patch 14.12. Enough of you and enough of League for now.
I get that a lot. See you on 14.13.
Yep.